Nope, not today, Satan. Hey everyone, it's your favorite incredible shrinking man, Big T, and I'm back with another video. Today is Friday, December 23rd. I hope you're having a great one so far. It is Christmas Eve, and I hope you're all staying warm after that big cold front came through and made everybody freezing cold throughout the country. But you didn't come here to listen to me talk about the weather, so I'm going to react to another clip from My 600 Pound Life, and this time it's 633-pound woman reveals her food hiding spots, so it should be really good. Let's get into it right now. I got it playing. Were they in her room waiting for her to wake up? Oh, look at those legs.
My first thought in the morning when I wake up is, I'm still alive. I didn't die while I'm asleep.
Right off the bat, that's an incredible thought to have. Just how much anxiety persists with you when you're over 600 pounds, probably even when you're in your 500s. I haven't had nowhere near as much anxiety as I've been losing weight, but when you're so big and you feel like everything is hopeless, you don't know when the last straw is going to be. Dr. Now talks about it all the time, that at some point your body's just going to give up, it's going to give out, it can't handle anymore. And so when you're over 600 pounds, you're at an increased risk of having a sudden heart attack, having a stroke, all kinds of problems can happen. You can get a blood clot because you're not very mobile. So any of those things can happen. And if you have sleep apnea, which is also prevalent in the obese community, and you don't have a CPAP machine, I do. I've been using it for a couple of years now. Like there's times before I got a CPAP that I was afraid that I was going to die in my sleep. So that's something that's very scary. But there's a few times, not this past year, but the year before, I can count at least 2 other times where I called 911 because I was so scared that I was dying. And at the end of the day, it was just heartburn. But sometimes I get heartburn here in the center of my chest. I don't know if you ever get it there. Sometimes it's on the right side, sometimes it's on the left side. But when I get heartburn, sometimes it can be so strong. And this was before my surgery. I'd get heartburn so strong and be like, oh crap, am I having a heart attack? And so just that thought automatically sort of sends me into a fight or flight mode, and I have all this incredible anxiety. And so it gets to a point where it's like, all right, I'm gonna call 911, and they'd come and they'd do an EKG on me, and they'd test me out and be like, okay, it's okay, you're fine, do you want to go to the hospital? And I'll generally say no, because if the EKG says I'm fine, then it probably is just anxiety. So sometimes you just don't know, and you just sort of live with that every single day, not knowing when it's going to happen. So that's why I encourage you, if you're big, do some weight loss. Let's get going here. Let's keep going.
I dread getting out of bed in the morning.
That first step is brutal, I'm telling you.
And because of my weight, I feel like my body's already giving up. I have lost most of my mobility, and I can't stand on my own.
That's sad when you get to that point.
Because of that, I can no longer live alone. Even worse, I have to live in the middle of my parents' living room. It is the only room where I fit, and it's close to the bathroom. I know I should be living in my own house. I should be working instead of being stuck in this house. I am the oldest of 3 kids. And my sister and I are only 10 months apart, but we didn't spend much time together as kids.
That's sad.
Because I was very sick as a child. I had asthma really bad, so I was in and out of the hospital with asthma attacks, and I was in an oxygen tent most of the time. I remember them holding me down, pinning me down, sticking IVs in me. I felt like I was suffocating. But my family was always there when I was sick. And I remember looking over at my mom and seeing her sitting there crying and watching me suffer. And then by the time I was at age 5 or 6, my asthma was controlled. For the first time in my life, I was feeling healthy, and I thought this would be a happy time. But my illness took a financial toll on my family. So my parents were always working. And my mom was working 2 jobs. She would leave early in the morning and we would hardly ever see her. My dad was in the military, so he would be gone for long stretches of time. And that really started to mess me up. Because when I was younger and in the hospital, everyone paid attention to me. And now it was like I didn't exist at all. At that time, any stress or loneliness, I ran to food. I just started gaining and gaining and gaining. When I was 10 years old, I probably was 100 pounds. But
yeah, it's one of those things you don't realize that it's usually childhood trauma or neglect or something like that that leads to obesity. You don't get to be 600 pounds starting at 25 years old. I mean, it's possible if you start at 25. Look at Nikocado Avocado as an example. He was healthy through his early adulthood, and then he started to get obese because he started doing those mukbang videos. But for the most part, those of us who've been through a trauma as a child, it starts early because we don't have access to other kinds of drugs or cigarettes or things that we can turn to help us cope with certain things. So food is always there. And we learn from an early age that food can bring us comfort. And so that's really what started. I started gaining weight when I was 5 years old. So it started very early for me. Yeah, it's just a difficult situation. It's like, as a kid, who do you turn to? Both your parents are working. You don't have anybody else around who's going to help you out or be there for you or show you any kind of love or anything like that. So what do? Well, you find something. Like we saw in another video, a woman said that her food was her hug. That's what it is. It's like, okay, I need some love. I need some comfort. Where do I find it? Oh, this food makes me feel good. I'm going to keep eating it. Let's continue.
By the time I was 23, I was over 400 pounds. I started working in the medical field as a nurse assistant. But being on my feet all day was hard because of my weight. So I had to leave my job. After that, I became depressed and didn't have anywhere to turn to. So I moved back in with my parents. And then by the time I was 32, I was 480. I started looking at what I ate, tried so many different diets. I would go up and down,
That's
but it never works. Food or weight, food always wins. Once I was over 500 pounds, I was falling. I couldn't keep my balance. I couldn't keep my weight up because my legs were giving out. So that's when I started being in a wheelchair.
I feel that Karina is using the wheelchair as a crutch now, and she stopped doing things for herself. Everything is handed to her.
I reached 600 pounds when I was 37. And I decided to have a balloon procedure done to help me with my eating. The surgeon inserted a balloon in my stomach to try to control my appetite to make my stomach smaller. Having the balloon in my stomach helped me lose 120 pounds. But then I had an accident. I fell through the deck, broke my leg, and everything went downhill. I then fell back into my old habits and started to gain the weight right back.
It's usually situations like that where you fall down, you injure yourself, that you end up going back into your old habits. I can't tell you how many times I injured myself over the years, and I was doing great on my diet, and then something traumatic would happen to me, and then I'd find myself back into my old habits. And of course, the one thing, I was losing a lot of weight before my dad died. I was looking pretty healthy, and then when he died, I went back and started eating again and kind of gained back a lot of weight. There was times where I slipped and fell in my friend's bathroom and twisted up my knee really bad. And so that sort of sparked my painkiller addiction is one of them. There was 2 times in my life I was addicted to painkillers, and, going back to the hospital, getting painkillers, and it's like, okay, you feel really bad. It's like you try so hard, you try to get back on the horse again, you try to get going, then you fall off again. And it's like you're starting from square one. You're almost bedridden again. It's like there's nothing worse than being in that position of hopelessness where you try and you try and you try and you fail and you fall down and you're back to square zero. And it's like, okay, the only way you're going to cope is going back to your addictions, going back to pain pills, going back to food. It's like whatever can make you feel happy, give you some comfort during this time, you're going to go back to it. So I totally understand that. I've been there. Let's continue. Oops. Continuing now. All right. Now,
And now I'm afraid I'm already back at 600 pounds and I just feel like I'm trapped again.
Yeah, there's been so many ups and downs. 600 back down, up again. And
It
every
is
time
so
you go back
difficult for
up,
me to actually get out of the house.
you just gain more weight. And then you go back down, you gain even more weight.
Just to get out of the front door is a huge challenge for me. And by the time that I do, I'm out of breath. But I prefer to pick up my own food at the grocery store because I'll get what I know what I like. Versus if I tell my mom or my dad, sometimes they won't get it. My parents have to drive me, and I sit in the back of the van on the floor. So they literally had to float.
That's interesting here. Sorry, I keep hitting the wrong button to pause and keep going. But it's interesting that unlike a lot of other people on the show, her parents are not enabling her. You know, she will write out a list what she wants, and her parents will not buy it for her. They know what she's going to do. And so she ends up having to go to the store herself to get what she wants. And that's really the only thing that gets her out of the house, apparently. But even so, her parents still take her to the store knowing what she's going to do and buy the foods that she wants to buy. So at some point, her parents got to say, no, I'm not taking you to the store. You're going to eat what we buy you. And that's how she's going to get out of this. But, of course, you know, it's not going to happen that way. Let's continue.
So the seats in the van down, put a blanket on the floor. Riding in the back of the van makes me feel like I'm cargo. Like I'm an animal being transported somewhere. And getting out of the van is just as hard, if not harder than getting into the van. Some grocery stores have electric carts, and I'll get on the electric cart. Some of them don't, so I have to wheel myself. And I'm already exhausted from getting in and out of the van, then pushing myself around the store.
Like that's the part that a lot of them don't understand. And again, I've been there. Like, you're doing this to yourself. You have to go to the store to buy the foods that are making you bigger, so that it makes it even harder to get into a vehicle and even harder to get out of a wheelchair and even harder to do all the things that you want to do. So you're perpetuating your own cycle of abuse here. So let's continue.
Stuff around the store, it's more exhausting. Okay, I need the pineapple nectar. My must-haves when anytime I go grocery shopping is juice, chips, my snack cakes, ice cream. Those are the main things I need to have.
I take that back. Her parents are enabling her by putting
double
it in
strawberry.
the cart. Make her get up and get it herself if she wants it. Make her go to the store on her own if she wants it.
When I go to the grocery store, it wears me out. And every day is getting harder to breathe, harder to move, harder to do anything that I used to do.
You gonna go on for dinner?
Okay, just lock the door.
Yes, I will.
Bye. Bye. Have fun. Okay.
Oh, I used to hate that as a kid when my parents would go out without me. Oh, that was horrible. But of course, I understand, you know, couples want to go out and, well, actually it was my dad and my stepmom, but they would go out to eat, and they'd leave me at home, and I'm like, oh, come on, why can't I go? I love going out to eat. But I get it, you know, date nights and whatever.
Yeah.
My family doesn't even ask me to go out to dinner anymore.
Yep.
Because they know it's too difficult for me to leave the house.
It wasn't difficult
And really,
at the time.
I can't wait
was
for
still
them
a
to leave.
teenager.
Because it is the only way I can eat what I want without shame.
They just didn't want me around. No.
Thank you for calling. Would you like to try our 2 medium sausage pizza for $6.99 each?
I'll have 2 medium pizzas with pepperoni and sausage,
Okay.
1 order of rich cheese sticks, 24 honey chipotle wings, and the double chocolate chip brownie.
Delivery or carry out?
This will be for delivery. Thank you. Around my parents, I try to keep a small portion. When they're not around, I eat whatever I want.
They must not be around then. I guess
I
this
keep
is
snacks, like
where
hidden
we're gonna
away
see
from
where
my
she
family
hides
to
her
see.
food.
Usually I hide my stash in the recliner. Chocolate is very irresistible for me. I want it all the time.
That's a little
That's the
appetizer
pizza.
before dinner.
Hello.
How are you?
Fine. All right. Got it. Thank you. My parents.
Now, of course, I got to be 671 pounds, so I pigged out. But when I'd order pizza, one large pizza was more than enough to fill me up. Like, I would eat most of it, except for maybe 1 or 2 pieces. Sometimes I'd have a couple breadsticks, but she's got 2 medium pizzas there. She's got an order of wings, I think I heard. I didn't hear everything that she ordered, but that's a lot of food for being by yourself. Like, I would not eat that much food myself.
My parents know I eat a lot, but they don't know I eat this much.
Oh, the brownie and breadsticks, okay. 1 pizza, that'd be enough.
When I'm eating, sometimes I feel like I'm out of control, but each bite is so satisfying.
It is.
It makes me feel warm and good inside, if only for a short while. But I'm afraid that one day I'm just gonna eat too much. I'm probably gonna die from a heart attack, or I'm gonna suffocate.
It's a tough place to be.
But I can't stop myself. My food addiction is killing me, little by little. I made myself get like this because of my eating disorders and everything, and I hate myself more, and that makes me just want to eat more because that comforts me. Something has to change drastically. I need help.
All right, that's the clip. And I totally understand that feeling. I was talking a little bit before about how you're perpetuating your own cycle of abuse. And it's just one of those things where you're so depressed by your lifestyle that nothing is going to make you feel good again, except for the one thing that you got to run to make you feel good again, which is the food. And so that's how you keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Is not only does the food sort of reward the pleasure centers in your brain, it's like you need more and more of it to keep going, and that's just what happens. You just end up eating so much food that even that doesn't satisfy you. You need that little sneak of chocolate or whatever just before dinner comes, because you're so hungry. You need that hit of dopamine or whatever just to keep going. I personally never hid food because I'm a grown man. I have my own place. I don't need to hide food, but there was times that, you know, food was hidden from me, like when my mom would order crackers, and sometimes when I wanted some snacks or something like that. Usually I became a late night snacker. That's when I was the most hungriest. And those times when I tried like the OMAD diet, where I was eating 1 meal a day, or when I was doing keto or something like that, and I'd try to fast like most of the morning, and so my first meal would come at like noon, and by the time dinner came I was just so famished. And then by dinner or after dinner time, when it was evening, that's when I'd be the most hungriest, because I didn't hardly eat all day trying to diet, and then I'd end up binging in the evening time, and then just sort of repeating that cycle. The next day, okay, I'll try to do better, and then of course I didn't, and then by the weekend I was like, okay, I can't do this, I'm going to binge, I'm going to start again on Monday, and that's just how the perpetual cycle became for me. But yeah, I never hid food, but food was hidden from me most of the time. But anyways, that's my video for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time. God bless.